Today I want to talk about using step one in my stroke recovery. So, you know how I'm always drawing parallels between recovering from alcohol and navigating this path of stroke recovery. And it's been very easy for me to do. I mean, after all, the sobriety program that I practice is intended to use in all of your affairs. And it just so happens that one of my affairs is that I had a stroke. And so it was only natural for me to apply the steps of the program and just start tackling it. Thankfully I had been doing it for 5 years at the time that I had the stroke. So it was very much a habit. Many of this was a habit in responding to challenges. So I'm really grateful that that happened. That doesn't mean that it's been easy, but it is something that I automatically turned to. So, as you know, those of you who are lifetime listeners, I had 3 years ago, my life took an unexpected turn and I had a stroke. And it thrust me into this just complete, unplanned world that I never would have imagined was going to happen to me. And at the time that I had my stroke, I was an extremely active person. I was running, I was doing yoga, I was working at least 10-hour days. I loved my job. So all of these enjoyable activities, though, after my stroke became sources of pain, extreme pain. Eventually, it was extreme pain. And in the midst of all of that pain, I was able to draw on step one, and it's really fascinating to me that I had that reaction. I've talked about how I went out on my front porch and I just looked out. It was sunny. I was looking out at the trees and the blue sky, and I thought, my life is unmanageable. Like, I have no control over this pain in my head. I cannot, um, I can't just walk away from work for, take a week off or take a day off. It was getting to that point where I had to start just walking away from my computer. And even that, like, I couldn't, nothing was helping. And the pain got so bad that I just, I didn't have a choice but to literally stand up and walk away. And so I sat out on my porch and I just started crying. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. My life is completely unmanageable. And the situation felt so similar to when I had to admit as an active alcoholic that my life was unmanageable. Now, the clarity in my mind was very different when I was sitting out on the front porch. I was in a lot of pain, but I had a lot of clarity. I had the wherewithal to know what I needed to do. It just wasn't what I wanted to do. When I had to admit that I was powerless over alcohol, that's the part that's the miracle. I don't know how I was able to admit that when I say it all the time, the very thing that was trying to kill me was blinding me from seeing that it was trying to kill me. So if I consider replacing this my recovery from alcoholism with my stroke recovery, I'm able to apply this concept of admitting that I'm powerless over my stroke. I'm powerless over the effects of the stroke. I shouldn't have eaten before I know better than that, right? I know better than to eat before the episode. I had a Persian cupcake that I made. I made vegan Persian cupcakes, and they're amazing. Um, and we had one more left, and I ate it before I started recording, and I shouldn't have. So I'm just gonna clear my throat the whole time. Sorry. Okay. So, admitting that I'm powerless over my stroke and acknowledging that the stroke and the pain, the chronic pain, has made parts of my life unmanageable. I can't live the way that I was living. I can't do the things that I used to do. And reflecting on the past 3 years, I've caught myself obsessing about reclaiming the life that I once had, and like by that I mean obsessing about I want to go hiking with my Weimaraner, I want to garden, I want to paint, I want to go running. That's one thing that I still. Why would I think I want to go running when I can't even walk around the full block? So I also miss writing for work. It's not the topic that I liked to write about for work, but it was this, it felt like it really had a purpose. I was putting together something for an audience. And I was talking to my husband tonight about how, because over the past few days, we've been talking a lot about figuring out what I want to do and what I can do. And the way that I need to do that is to explore the ideas. I always have a plethora of ideas, but I need to tame them just enough to make sure that I can try out the ideas, but I'm not putting myself in a position where I'm going to trigger my head, trigger my pain. And I was talking to him about how I I have these ideas and I want to explore them, and if I'm able to make a few extra bucks in the process, then that would be really rewarding for me, because I'm thinking about the book that I'm writing, and I'm thinking about some resources. I've come up with a resource that I think would be really valuable for vestibular patients that deal with vision issues and have a problem using their devices. So I came up with something, and I want to do it. But the reason why I brought it up to him is, one, we're married and we're supposed to bring up these things now. But I was also like, I don't know, when you're on disability, I don't know how much it is that you can make. Like, if I were to make money, how much money am I allowed to make to stay within the area of being able to continue to receive disability? And of course, if I could make enough money that like surpasses that and I become a millionaire, like of course I'm gonna become a millionaire. But anyway, we were talking about that whole idea of, you know, exploring if there's a way that I can make money, make some extra money off of something that I'm passionate about. And I'm always passionate about ideas. I'm the part time job queen. I never actually do the part time job, I just always have ideas. And I'm always telling my husband, I'm like, that is a part time job. That is a part time job. Like I say it all the time. So now, I mean, I don't have a job. So I'm like, why don't I just try these little ideas? None of them require money, they require time to explore it. So, anyway, we were talking about this stuff. And I think this is one of the reasons why I've been excessively hopeful over the past few days and feeling like it's okay to be excited. This is something that I heard in identity theft that I talked about it in the episode. I think that I reviewed the book, but that it's okay to be happy as a stroke survivor, meaning I don't have to always be like, oh yeah, I had a stroke and I lost my job and things are never going to be the same and my life is never going to be as good as it used to be. Like, I have permission. I got permission in this book. I have permission to find ways to be happier than I was before my stroke. And so that's my mindset over the past few days, and it feels good. So I'm going to try to keep doing it. My husband has been just incredibly supportive. Like when we were sitting down there tonight and talking about it, like his face was lighting up just like mine, and he was mirroring my enthusiasm, and it just made my whole world light up. I was so excited to be able to have the conversation, and I even said afterwards, like, I said, thank you for not making fun of my silly ideas or something like that. And he was like, no, I mean, I think it's great. I think that I'm betting that from his perspective, it's probably nice to be talking to me and like hearing me be hopeful and hearing me wanting to contribute, wanting to make some extra money or doing something that could be beneficial in some way. So, the opposite would be that I'm just feeling like, and some days I've felt this way, like, what's the point? Like, I'm just going to sleep all day or something like that, or I'm just going to listen to my book all day, and not trying to be productive, I think, it's probably nice that he hears me wanting to be productive. So, but the reality remains the same, right? That I can only engage in a certain amount of activity in order to keep my symptoms at bay. And what him and I talked about yesterday was uh, taking one of the things I want to do and spend 5 minutes working on it and then walk away. And then the next day, if I enjoyed it the first day, then come back the next day and do it again for 5 minutes. And after a week or a few days, if my head is feeling okay, then add another 5 minutes and do that for a few days. So what is really cool is that this is how I trained to run a 5K. It wasn't 5 minutes, it was 1 minute. that every week I added another minute to my running time, and took away a minute from my walking time. So, and I did this for months until I got up to running a 5K. I was committed. I was passionate and I was committed, and it felt amazing. And it's always going to be one of my great memories of something that I really was dedicated to, and that memory helps me today know that if I commit myself to something and I'm consistent, I can make it happen. And not only that, but my sobriety is an example of that as well. So so we were talking about that, about applying 5 minutes to a a idea or a hobby, whatever it is that I'm interested in doing. So this is really very much like adopting that one day at a time approach, which again is something that I was introduced to right at the beginning of sobriety when step one was introduced to me. So, so I'm aware of it now, and I've been talking about it. I'm going to share this with my psychiatrist on Wednesday, and it is a discipline that I'm going to focus on. I shared it with my vestibular therapist today, and it's just like AA. Another thing, it's progress, not perfection. So all of these things are aligning with what I want to do right now. And in my sobriety program, we also know that you just have to keep coming back and working on the steps one day at a time. So I've realized, though, at times I minimize my pain in order to do the things that I want to do. And when I do that, I'm inadvertently worsening my pain. And I have to know, I have to be hyper aware. Awareness is a challenge, but I have to be hyper aware that I'm doing that. That, as my therapist, my vestibular therapist says, if I reach a 5 in pain, I need to stop. Actually, if I feel like I'm going to get to a 5, that's when I need to stop. Because if I already have reached a 5, I typically pass it after about 5 minutes. So, and what I'm talking about again is that 1 to 10 pain scale. I can't let myself go above a 5, which is a challenge, especially if I'm passionate about something. And this is when I was working, this was a big challenge for me, um, because I would just keep going to finish a project and rest my head later. So I need to make sure that I stop myself when I need to stop myself, so that I don't trigger the pain beyond a 5. So I know it will be difficult. It's been difficult. When I upload my podcast in the evening, it takes a lot of discipline for me to not go on to social media and start reading people's posts and stuff, because I can't scroll. As soon as and what I'll end up doing, this is what I do. If you want to know one of my secrets, I close my eyes and scroll, and then I open my eyes and read what's on the screen, and then I close my eyes and scroll, and I've mastered it enough that I know how far to move my finger so that I scroll a whole screen, and then I open my eyes and I'm, yes, I know I could go over to the right and like click the little bar thing. I don't know if on social media the little bar thing is there, but anyway, that's one of my secrets. But even that, by closing my eyes and then opening them and focusing on the screen, that makes my head hurt too. It just makes um, it doesn't hurt as fast as if I were to keep my eyes open and scroll. If I keep my eyes open and scroll on the screen, it just once, I'll feel woozy. So, so anyway, that's my secret. So, let's see, where are we at? So I need to, oh, here's another thing that the vestibular therapist introduced me, or she mentioned this, and this was interesting to me. When she was telling me what homework I needed to do, and that, like, one of the things that I mentioned is I have to, for 1 minute, like, move my head like this and slowly scan the room. So I'm moving my head from left to right and back again and moving my eyes at the same time. And so I do it for 1 minute. If my symptoms increase to a 5 or above, I have to stop, even if I don't make it to a minute. And what she told me was, at the very beginning when I started seeing her, she said, focus on the things that you have control over. And of course, when she said that, I thought of my sobriety program, because that's my sobriety program. I have to focus on the things that I have control over. I talk about it all the time here. I can't control people, places, and things. So anyway, when she said focus on the things that you have control over, I kind of like, what do you mean? Because I hadn't thought about that in any other context other than sobriety and living life. So she says how fast you move your head, and the speed. Now I've lost my, what was it? The speed that I move my head, and the distance I move my head. So, not straining. So I'll show you another example. I can move my head just partially and then back again to the right partially, or I could move my head really fast and look all the way back here, in my back left corner of the room, and then turn and look at the right back corner of the room. So I have control over how fast I move and how far I go when I'm doing my head movement exercises, and then my other exercises like my eye movement exercises. And so I thought it was just really cool that this guidance mirrored my sobriety journey, focusing on the aspects that I can control. And I shared with her today how this advice she gave me is an integral part to my sobriety, and that I just love. It's reassuring to me that she pulled this tool from, she is using, I'm sure she didn't get it from the sobriety program, but she introduced this tool that I already know how to do. And she made it be a part of my stroke and vestibular therapy. And that's just really cool. It's kind of like those are the kinds of things that happen in my sobriety that because I'm sober and I'm paying attention, I see how things like are coincidental and that kind of thing. So it's just neat. I'm glad that it's something that when I was going to vision therapy, both times I went to vision therapy, they, sorry, I almost knocked over my Coke, my evening Coke. Um, they never said anything about that. They never, at least they didn't describe it to me the way that she did. So it's just reassuring that I have this principle that I'm able to pull into what I'm doing in my therapy. Um, so speaking of therapy, I had some women come over yesterday. Once a month, I have some women that come over and they bring a sobriety meeting to me in my house since I can't go to in-person meetings. It's just overwhelming for me and it hurts my head. It's not worth it when I can do it online. So once a month they come to my house and we're reading through A Woman's Way Through the Steps. And we're like, when we get together, we read from the book. And then after we read a certain amount of pages, then we all go around and everybody shares their experience, strength and hope as it relates to what we read. And so after talking to my vestibular therapist, she wants me to practice reading from a book. So I get to read 2 paragraphs a day out of whatever I choose to read out of. And so when we had the women over yesterday, I said they were expecting me not to read because I don't usually read. And I said, I get to read today. I get to read 2 paragraphs. And so it was my time to read. And it was really difficult. I almost felt like I was going to have a panic attack because it's different for me to read out loud than it is for me to read just to myself. And I've been trying to explain it to my dad actually a couple weeks ago. But the best I can explain it is when we read to ourselves, we're not grabbing each word from the page, we're skimming it really and absorbing it that way. When you have to read out loud, I have to grab each word and pronounce it, like grab each word from the page. And my eyes don't focus very well to grab each word. I skip words. I can't see all of them, which is why when I'm cooking my cupcake that I just ate, I missed an entire part about fluffing the egg white. It's vegan, so there's a way you can replicate this in a plant-based environment. So I missed that, and as a result, my cupcakes were not puffy. But uh, I I don't just I it's difficult for me, I guess. And when I was explaining this to my vestibular therapist, she was asking me, "Do you have aphasia?" And I said, "No. I mean, I was diagnosed with, like, I'm a 3 out of 5 for dementia, but It's memory, speech, and language, which, but I know what words mean. I know how to pronounce them. I just have a hard time remembering words. And that is, in a way, aphasia, from what I understand. But looking at the words on the page and having them come out of my mouth, the only thing that is the problem is my eyes focusing on the words. Like right now, like I always have a little bit of a outline for myself. Um, and throughout the podcast episode, my symptoms increase. And my goal is to always try to keep them at a 5 or less. And which is why sometimes I'll close my eyes. Sometimes I'll look, I look at different areas, whatever is not triggering my head. Like right now, I'm right at a 5. I'm probably right at a 6. Actually, I've gone a little bit further up, but I think it's because I was trying to explain my exercises and I was moving my head back and forth. Anyway, I don't know if my issue with reading out loud is just the vestibular issue where I'm having problems focusing on the words, or there's a disconnect from my eyes to my brain to my mouth. I don't think that's the case. I think it's just my eyes. So now my homework is to read 2 paragraphs to myself and then go back and read the same 2 paragraphs out loud and just see what happens. So that's what I'm going to do. Anyway, it's my new daily activity. So I've learned to seek help. And this is what is making my life manageable again. And I don't know that I saw that from the perspective that I'm seeing it today with stroke and vestibular therapy, stroke recovery and vestibular therapy. I'm seeing how the help around me, whether it's professional or personal, my family, my husband, my kids, if the help around me is what's making my life manageable, because I can't do it alone. I can't do it all by myself. And that's the same thing for those of you who are in sobriety. That's exactly what we learn in sobriety. We don't have to do it alone. We need to have a fellowship. We need to work with others. And I'm finding that this exactly is the same thing. Other people are helping me to do things that aren't easy for me, whether it's cooking dinner, driving me to my appointments, or whatever I can't do. And I need other people in order to maintain my mental health as well. So psychiatrists, my sponsor in AA, these women who came to my house yesterday to bring a meeting to me. And that, along with self-care, really has been a big priority for me. I've been starting recently, over the past couple months, to get a massage. When I go get my nails done, there's a massage place right next door. So I went last week and included a 30-minute massage, and I meant for it to be an hour, but they only gave me a 30-minute. Don't worry, I only paid for a 30-minute, But the 60-minute one is where they rub my head and they like do this thing that I've learned how to do for myself, but it's always better when somebody else does it. So that kind of thing, I'm trying to do the things that make me feel better. Like before I started recording the podcast, I have a massage back rolly thing that that I sat with for about 10 minutes, and then I laid on the ground and kind of rolled myself around, and it's because my back hurts. And it's these little things that I take time to do for myself that are allowing me to remain calm, feel like my life is manageable. Um, Stepping outside for some fresh air, even if it's just sitting on my front stoop because I'm not feeling well and I don't want to walk too far or I'm going to feel woozy. I've also been kicking my hot showers up a notch. So I keep the lights off and bring a candle in there, like a smell good candle. And I turn on some classical music from the Bezos device, and I make it into more of an experience than I'm just taking a shower because I haven't taken a shower in a couple days. You know what I mean? Um, so these are the kind of things that I think are also helping me to feel a little more hopeful and grateful over the past few days. So I'm excited about it. And despite the limitations that my stroke has imposed on me, I really am feeling right now like my my normal inclination to like explore ideas and do, I don't know what I'm trying to say, like my normal self is like when I was working is that I have ideas to the point where I have to write them down like all day long. All day long, I'm writing down ideas that I have of stuff I want to do. And that has been happening over the past couple days. I'm starting to have these ideas, and it's hard to explain. It's just they're hobbies. They have to do with hobbies. They have to do with like making money. They have to do with working together with other people to do a project. It's like that's the normal Rachel and that's been happening over the past few days. So that is good news. And what I need to do is make sure that I marry that side of me that has all these ideas with you can only make incremental progress each day. You know, you can have all these ideas, you can write them all down, but the the Rachel that I'm used to just keeps trying to implement all of these ideas. And I need to marry that side of me that I really enjoy and that gives me, like, drives me with this other side of me that is in recovery and figure out where they meet. So, I don't feel alone today. I feel positive. So it's all good news. And I I'm continuing to accept that I really can only control parts of all of this, little parts of all of this. And I'm sifting through it all on a day-to-day basis. I'm noticing how I can control how I take care of myself. I can control how I reach out to other people. I can control how I respond to my pain, how I respond to the triggers that caused me to not feel well. So that's what I have for you today. I'm grateful today. I'm grateful that everything has led me to where I am right now. That I am able to admit that I'm powerless over these symptoms. From what I understand, if it is in fact a vestibular disorder, which I have to set up an appointment to take a test. There are 2 tests that actually diagnose you with vestibular disorder. And I don't see how it's not, but if it is in fact that, it is not something that goes away. I really didn't believe that what I'm dealing with is going to go away, because it's been like 3 years and I continue to keep trying to do what they say, but it just stays the same. So I'm powerless over that. And if I don't admit that I'm powerless over it, then I'm going to make it worse, number one, which is what I already did. I spent 2 years making it worse. And I can't manage my life if I don't admit that. If I do admit that I'm powerless, then I get to control the things I can, and I'm learning. It's the serenity prayer. Serenity to accept the things that I cannot change. The courage to change the things that I can. And the wisdom to know the difference. So, thanks for listening today. Thanks for joining me on the Recovery Daily